Sportskeeda. Yeah, there we go. I'm not a singer, but I can speak. It's Rings and Rambles, our weekly show diving a little bit deeper into the news, and some of it breaking just before we went on air today. A big name has signed a new deal with the WWE. We'll be talking about AJ Styles, P1 himself, phenomenal one. We'll get your comments on screen. Here's what I need you to do. If you're watching live or on demand, hit the like button or get into the comments. Either one of those things. These are things that do not cost you money, but help us and help us galvanize the audience and climb up the old algorithm that is always floating around us and always changing. It never stays the same. So yeah, hit the like button. It really, truly helps the show. A lot to get into. We'll talk about that big name signing with WWE. We'll talk about AJ Styles being back, and we got to talk about this story that has come together, and it has made things certainly interesting. Your comments getting on screen as well, so let us know about that. We have exclusive stuff over on the WrestleBinge channel. If you're watching here on the Sportskeeda YouTube channel, go check out all those things. Plug. All right, let's get into it. Big news. Another sign of the early start of the talent wars of 2024's that is going to start here, because we've heard about this with MJF claiming that he had a deal coming up with AEW, which was accurate, but many believe he's staying with them. We've heard about Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch and their contracts coming up. We've heard about Drew McIntyre now for months, feels like his deal could be up around then. But somebody I think that's really underrated, Nick Hartson joining me here. I'm Kev Kelm. I haven't even said her name, is Dominic Mysterio. He just signed a brand new deal with WWE.
Yeah. I'm liking it. You know, Dirty Dom has been one of the best heels of 2023 as we're approaching the end of the year. And I thought this was a no-brainer just because of his dad has been in the company, has done so much great things for WWE over the years. And Dom has paved his own way with WWE as part of Judgment Day and being one of the most hated heels right now. He's, you know, I love what he's doing with the Judgment Day. So love to see this signing from WWE. Get him locked down.
Would love to hear from anyone watching and see what they think of Dominic signing. I've seen Dominic live get some of the most insane reactions. And reactions are undeniable. They're irrefutable proof of what you can do in front of a casual fan, a hardcore fan. I know we're talking about social metrics and this or that, or blah, 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 blah. I remember some people saying this about Grayson Waller. Oh, he only has X amount of followers on Twitter, so how is he even getting... And then you see him live. You know what I mean? And then you see him get a big reaction. I was like, see? It's not all within your scroll. You know what I mean? Like, and Dom, I think, is one of those guys with the casual fan. He's easy to hate. He's a guy who disrespected his family, right? And with the hardcore fan, you don't like him because you're like, oh, you're only getting this because you're Rey Mysterio's kid. But then you see him work, and I'm not going to claim that he's the best bell-to-bell wrestler in the world. I think he's a very, very underrated one. I would say that. But he understands how to just take these pauses and the stuff that was written for him and produced with him and Rhea Ripley and the Judgment Day and the leaving your fan. I mean, when I was at WrestleMania, you were there. He got maybe one of the near a Roman level reaction in terms of people not liking him or just booing him.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I mean, he played up that whole prison role, everything perfectly. Coming out to WrestleMania in the handcuffs, you know, they took the mask off of him. Everybody just booing like crazy.
Crazy.
It was
I knew someone who did the extra parts that worked like the security part where they walk him out and everything like that. Oh, and nice. He told me being next to him, he's like, you could tell he was just taking it in like crazy, like loving everything.
Yeah. I mean, he's awesome at what he does. And I happened to go to a SmackDown here in Sacramento not too long ago. Dominic came out, and I mean, just like you see it on TV, crowd just not letting him get a word in. Just the second he picks that mic up, oh! But you know, that's that X factor that a lot of people don't have, that you don't realize until you see it live. Like you said, you know, they might not have all the followers, but they're creating that heat that just makes for great wrestling and entertainment.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to bring up the Liv Morgan thing. Pierre, we'll get your Liv Morgan comment up here. Obviously, that was a big story for the weekend as well. But
It was.
wrapping up this Dominic thing, it's a no-brainer. A 5-year deal, too. 5
Nice.
years. That's a long deal for anyone.
Yeah.
I don't care. I mean, you're talking about a young guy. He's south of 30. So you got him now closer to that 30 window. And this is a guy who is brought into the business by his father, has the pedigree, has the name. You can do a lot of things with somebody in 5 years, good and bad, and it gives you time here. And you factor injuries and stuff like that, so he could be there a lot longer than 5 years. So good for him. Good time to sign with the company.
Yeah,
good guy, makes sense. Obviously, if you could get him in the open market, I think anybody would want to get him. But could he do it with the Dominic Mysterio name? That's a WWE legal thing, so it's a whole thing,
right?
So this is a new deal with the company, and I kind of knew things were good with him. I knew that he was one of those guys that did have a deal coming up, but he did strike me as somebody who was like, this act isn't going to be, it's made for WWE in terms of the reactions and everything they've invested in it long term. And I also don't think that they're done with him and his dad either. You know what I mean? Like that was such a long like that was like what, 8, 9, 10 months. They drew that out for years. I interviewed both of them years ago. I told you about these interviews. And they both remarked on it. And I'm talking like 2019. They started building this thing, like just bringing him in, and then the tag team, and so there's more. And if you want to have Ray's big final match, I think you got to have it with Dom, right?
Definitely. It's got to be Ray and Dom to end Ray's career, and the fact that they signed Dominic for 5 more years is doing Ray justice too. I believe. It keeps the Mysterio name in WWE longer, and who knows how much longer Ray's going to be around. But yeah, like you said, it's got to be Ray and Dominic to end off Ray's career.
And it's also good that you're talking about a really young guy too, that WWE has success with.
Oh yeah.
Like so much of WWE in this show we're going to be talking about is guys north of 40, that are hitting their strides. Right. Randy Orton's back. Roman is up there. AJ Styles just came back. Let's get into this, though, Liv Morgan story, which is unfortunate. We'll talk about him here in a bit. Pierre, bringing this one up here. Pierre Paul. Liv Morgan got arrested last week, but don't worry. She'll have nothing in trouble, and she'll be a part of the big plan for WrestleMania 40. Liv Morgan arrested in Florida over the weekend on possession charges, possession of marijuana, where it is illegal. Years ago, this would have been a big deal, and it doesn't feel like it's as big of a deal as it could have been. Liv Morgan, as far as we know, is not in any bad standing with WWE. You talk about, God, 15, 16 years ago when Rob Van Dam was the WWE ECW World Champion, got pulled over, had marijuana in Ohio, and it just derided everything for him there, and it was a legal situation and all these different things. You have other guys where marijuana is an issue. It isn't. To be clear, WWE has updated that policy. They are much more lax on it. And they're another thing is the wellness policy, by the way. You cannot easily access that anymore in this new WWE. So there still isn't a wellness policy, by the way. That was part of my research for today's show, is I wanted to see what was the current status of marijuana with the W wellness policy, and then that happened here. Lewis, following up here on the Dominic conversation, I want to get you on here on screen. People need to understand something. Dom made his debut at 23 years old at SummerSlam 2020. That was true. He did that match with Seth Rollins. It was his first match. His first match was on a premium live event ever that anyone saw, that we know of. Crazy. He could have been under a hood wrestling somewhere we didn't know, right? He still needs skills development, like better promos. Here's the thing. I think his promos are fantastic. You know what I mean? Like the role, you think of the promo you're playing is the promo you're doing. Everyone's like, oh, you have to do this other promo, this other thing. That's just you projecting your fantasy booking on somebody. It's play the play you're given. This guy plays the play he's given right now, and he really nails it. I can see some of that in the past where with Ray, he was really playing in his father's shadow, for lack of a better phrase. Put on some muscle and get pushed further. I don't think everyone needs to be a jack guy in WWE. I can understand it, because you're seeing a lot of guys now that are at the top of the card, are pretty stacked and beefy up there. Speaking stacked and beefy, we haven't seen him in months. AJ Styles shows up at the end of SmackDown. This has been reported for weeks that he was going to be reinserted back into things for WWE. He's been out of the scene there for a while. Got laid out by the Bloodline months ago in September. but came back north of 40, just looking chiseled out of granite. Show ends with him next to Randy Orton. You have that many abs when you're in your 40s? Good on you, AJ. Good on you, dude. Looked great. And then did some heelish stuff, which we haven't seen from AJ in some years. Kind of taking on a prominent hero, fan favorite on the card, LA Knight. You think he would go for the Bloodline? And he was, because it was a whole fracas thing, but kind of took out LA Knight and kind of gave a look at the Bloodline as well as to where he stands. I like this. He's interesting. I think AJ is an underrated character development guy, and he's been able to do a lot more of that in his WWE run than maybe we even got on. And they tried some of this with him in TNA when they kind of turned him a little bit heelish near the end of it and doing some different things there. But this was, clever stuff. WWE does just look and wink at somebody, and it was very interesting ending. What do you think of AJ Styles' return? He comes back at a very good time. You want to get on the road to WrestleManias.
Yeah, I loved it. Initially he came out to help Randy Orton and LA Knight, and that he did. And it shocked me when he attacked LA Knight, but I like this angle. I like to see where they're going to go with this. AJ being the bad guy because he's been the good guy for so long. And maybe he's not. Maybe he's going to be kind of those lone wolf type guys where I don't get along with anybody, And but it's going to be interesting to see, and to have him come out jack like that. Puts him and to attack Roman Reigns the way that he did, puts him right up into the mix with all the other top guys right now on who could go after the belt and what belt. But I mean, like, there is so many top guys right now. You got CM Punk, you got Randy Orton, you LA Knight. Now you throw AJ Styles into the mix, who might go after a belt too. I mean, WWE, they could go in so many different directions right now. It's crazy.
But absolutely. Want to thank everybody who's watching wherever you're watching on the Facebook. We have to be on Wrestle Room, the Wrestle Waiting Room. So definitely give us a follow on that thing if you're popping up there on the Facebooks. I have to get all my notes in. With AJ, I would say for him, I think him and LA Knight is a good position because Punk coming back, CM Punk's back, Randy Orton's back. That really kind of shuffles the order in terms of who gets to be in big top storyline programs and gets a lot of TV time and gets a lot of time on premium live events. WWE is a stacked, very deep roster. And you're starting to see this in the past year. I would see this when we get to a premium live event and you'd be like, oh, there are only 5 or 6 matches. There isn't 7 or 8, right?
Right.
And so there's less space being built to and given finality on the pay-per-view platform, but the TV sometime, like we saw this with WrestleMania in the past few years, they would do the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, the SmackDown before, or the WrestleMania after. And some people are kind of getting like, all right, you're just on the cusp, but here, you're going to do this one, And would AJ Styles kind of be in that category? I don't know, but it doesn't seem like they're going to do that. It seems like they have a big spot for him ready to go. And it is interesting. They haven't done him and Roman in some years. They've done it before in the past, but completely different players here. Clear that he's not doing the OC thing. I don't get the impression he's doing the OC thing. I think it's kind of ran its course to some degree. But good on him. Good on him. Big time player. Give him a different, fresh coat of paint. Paint a coat, as some people say.
Yeah.
Want to talk about this?
Liking it.
I know. Maybe I'm jumping ahead here. Have you seen this?
Where are we going?
WWE Warner Brothers Discovery story. Have you seen this, Nicholas? Have you seen this story?
I've seen a little bit about it.
Let me know about it, Kev. Have you seen the insane level of just butthurt nerd rage on this one from both sides of it? Have you seen this?
Yeah.
Oh man,
I didn't know if we were going there, but yes,
are.
I have.
Yeah, we are. We're going there. So I'm going to try and put this. There's a lot here. Okay, so this is a lot of stories. So when I lay this out, don't go anywhere. Stick with me now. Okay. I don't have the cap. I have a hat. So I'll tip of the hat to Nick Hausman, good friend in the wrestling media business, House of Wrestling, Rumor and Innuendo, chauffeur he's doing over in ad-free shows. So on there, he breaks a story, and I've shot a couple texts back and forth about it, saying it was a big story. It certainly is a big story about this whole scenario of Warner Brothers Discovery, who is the media partner currently of All Elite Wrestling, WWE's arch rival. Now, CM Punk got ejected from there under very controversial circumstances that we have covered at great depth. And so he's out of there. While that's going on, and he comes back to WWE and has massive numbers. He's one of the most watched quarter hours of television for WWE in the last year. All right. So that's proof positive that he's good. He had the most watched social media stuff they've done this year with his return. I was at Survivor Series. I haven't heard a reaction like that. I know we talked about Dom's reactions, but I haven't heard a reaction like that in quite some time. He's the guy, whether you like it or not. He's the guy right now that everyone's talking about. And he brings a different element to things for WWE, as they're also at this very pivotal point of selling the TV rights of Monday Night Raw, their longest running TV franchise. They're looking to get a $400 million reported annual guarantee for it and a multi-year agreement. So that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. They're currently getting around the 370, 380 number. And they are still on USA Network under the NBC Universal banner. They're still on that deal until October of 2024, so the fall of next year. But they want to get that deal settled. They did sign SmackDown, which will leave network television, go back to cable. It will be with USA Network, NBC Universal. Don't know if it'll stay on Fridays, but in less than a year's time, it's going to be there. They signed a new TV deal for CW, so NXT. So WWE has they are not aligned with any one TV media master. They have next day streaming rights for Hulu, completely different deal. So they're definitely open to talking to other people, doing their due diligence. And one of those meetings they had, reportedly, was with Warner Brothers Discovery. And the door was opened, according to Dave Meltzer, when CM Punk joined WWE. And of course, he had some fair success with having an entire TV show for all of a few months pivoted around him on Collision, and that show was launched on his name. So what do you think of this whole thing? What do you think of it? How do you think this plays out? This is interesting. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but the scenario Houseman also laid out, if it happens, that he heard, ideally from some sources, would see Raw go to TBS or TNT. AEW, if it gets to stay with Warner Brothers Discovery, they both be working for the same company, would be put on Discovery, the Discovery cable outlet. Not nearly as prominent. And so it's very interesting. Also, it's worth noting, Ring of Honor, which is an AEW brand, they denied a deal with the CW, and NXT went and took that deal. And so... this is an interesting thing here. Sneaking this comment in here, Lewis Davidson. I didn't want to leave you hanging. I would love to see Randy Orton versus Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania 40. Might happen, might not. Who knows? Would love to see it. Bobby has been doing great lately. Everyone's just doing this the fantasy booking. Not opposed to it. But what do you think of this whole kerfuffle with TV ratings and different stuff like that? I know some fans sometimes don't look at this as a fantasy booking thing. I don't mind talking to you guys about that, but this is a big deal. This is huge.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's massive, and the fact that Ring of Honor pulled out of that deal, is very interesting to me. And then WWE goes right in and is like, okay, well, we're gonna take it, and
it also gets an increased deal. It's worth noting it's not Raw or SmackDown money,
right?
But they got more money, and this is they're going to be on network television. I think USA Network may even be a bigger network than CW, but in terms of the United States or people outside the United States, like CW is maybe fourth or fifth broadcast channel. You don't have to pay into a cable channel TV service to get it. You're getting it over the air. So you reach some people that maybe you wouldn't get, and maybe NXT gets to be seen by some people who've never seen it before.
Yeah, and I think that's the idea behind it too. Get these young superstars. The developmental is what some people like to call NXT.
Another thing is it's a studio show.
Yeah,
they're not paying $500,000 to go bring the whole crew and a production costs and union fees to go to building to building and building to building and marketing you have to do in each building to build. No, they gotta get all right. We're gonna get 1,000 people in this building that we own, that we run, and maybe occasionally we'll go do a premium live event on the road now and then. I don't see them breaking that model because it's really cost effective. Why would you spend money on something if you don't have to? But man,
it's big time.
And it's also not, it's like the vibe is, would AEW lose a TV deal in this whole thing? Because we don't hear about them talking to anybody else right now. You know?
Yeah. And are they put in a corner right now? Like, are they going to have to be on the same network as WWE? Or are they
it does put Warner Brothers. This is me working in media. I know you've done a little bit of media work, but it does put puts Tony and AEW's back to the wall. This is and this is something Tony references. He did the fair and civil response, despite getting into some Twitter BS we've seen him do before. And I'm fine with him doing Twitter BS. Everyone does Twitter BS nowadays. Oh yeah. But he did their Ring of Honor. They had their big final battle show, which I still haven't seen, but I've heard great stuff about. I'm sorry. I had a family wedding over the weekend. Good. But he did the post-show press conference, and he basically said they're doing their due diligence. That's the cop-out. Like, yes, they have to have those conversations with everyone. And he kind of did the Paul Heyman thing of it's us versus the world. It's AEW versus it's us and our pirate ship, which I think is a great rallying thing to do internally and do for your hardcore fans and go to the AEW fan base and say, like, it's them versus you. You got to defend us. You got to do. And I get that, but you're 5 years in, you know, and you're fighting from underneath. And I mentioned this before in other conversations. WWE is WWE, and now they have Endeavor money, and now you have this whole fight for talent, and you had Punk go over there, and they're hitting their stride. I still think All Elite Wrestling is making some great stuff. I think the content of the classic, even though it's making another title that I think I could get lost in the shuffle, the matches are good, but they got stung. They got MJF isn't on the verge of possibly having an injury and maybe dropping the title. I'm not saying it's going to happen. You have Adam Cole hurt. You have Kenny Omega out. You have all this stuff with the Young Bucks. They're just on the shelf because you're just trying to get the CM Punk stink off of them. That's just been there, right? Yeah. And that's no effect of whether or not they have good matches. They had a great match at All In, right? But it's like a lot of top acts that have some issue or something going on, and they can't be as effective as you need them to be. But you still have great matches. You still have John Moxley. You still have Bryan Danielson. But it's challenging. It's really challenging, you know. And I'm starting to see the issues that I think they have is just trying to be wrestling for wrestling's sake. You need stories. The devil thing is the closest they're getting to that. But that also, I don't know how that pays out. I really don't. If they go with Jungle Jack Perry, who has the CM Punk stink on him. And I'm not saying it because it's bad. It's, come on, Nick, like, you know what I'm talking about. It's all there. And then it's like, well, they have to play it up. And then if they do play it up, like, are they playing up the competition? Are they, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's the stuff like, you know, like when TNA was like TNA, I'm not saying it isn't now, but they're rebooting and they're doing some great stuff, by the way. I think they're in a wonderful position. But I mean, they had that period where they always felt they had to reference something going on in WWE that fans didn't like. They always, like, once you start to get into that pattern and it feels really indulgent, it just kind of makes you look less than, even if you don't want to be.
It does. And I think that they need to veer away from that a little bit. I know that is their competitor, and, you know, to have great competition will bring your company up a little bit, but just kind of separate yourselves. And you don't always have to be compared to WWE. Just be you. But I do agree that they need to add more storyline into it. You know, one of my friends who is an AEW nut, he came up to me and he goes, you know, I'm kind of getting a little bit tired of how AEW is coming off as more of an indie promo when I watch it than it is so much of a week-to-week storyline that I like with WWE. And he goes, I would really love it more if they did more storylines, because I love the wrestling. I love the whole.
And it's not like they don't have storylines. They have plenty of storylines.
They do. But I mean, I see where he's coming from at the same time as well. So,
and it's a lot of bad things for happening to AEW at the same time. A lot of good things happening to WWE, and perception starts to become reality. You know?
Yeah.
So I'll get into this one though. We mentioned TNA in that conversation. I don't want to leave them out. I just did an interview with Ace Austin of TNA. Oh, we have to start calling him TNA again, which is another fun thing. They are doing Hard to Kill and Snake Eyes, big events in Las Vegas. Huge names already promoted for that. Kazuchika Okada from New Japan Pro Wrestling, who could be a free agent soon. Will Ospreay is kind of wrapping up his round, his tour, his farewell to everything else before he goes off and locks into his AEW deal. Jesse Hyde. Thank you, Jesse. I see you watching his streams. You watch a lot and you comment a lot. And I adore you. Thank you for that. I appreciate it, Jesse. He goes, TNA teasing something for Hard to Kill. This is their upcoming premium live event, pay-per-view. And they're going to relaunch their streaming service, TNA Plus, under the Endeavor banner.
Yeah.
Endeavor has a back-end digital business that was working with WWE on WWE Network and other things. And that kind of got the ball rolling. And then now Endeavor owns WWE. They own a majority stake in WWE. So that was interesting. And then he says TNA teasing something for Hard to Kill. They say big signing, but it could be something cooking. Yes, that also says Worlds Collide. They kept saying Worlds Collide. TNA is that, hey, we're not the biggest, but we're the outlier. Yeah. And if you're in AEW and you want to come over and do this, and Tony lets you do it, and they had a collaboration together during the pandemic. And the pandemic was different too, but I've heard some people kind of go on the record to me off the record and say that we got enough out of it, but we didn't get everything out of it that we should have in terms of our collaboration with All Elite Wrestling. Not saying it was bad, but it was just we didn't get exactly what we thought we could get out of it. The expectations were completely met. Not to say they were bad, but Kenny Omega comes in and runs roughshod and beats up our guy and becomes a world champion. All those different things.
Man.
So I've heard some people say it to me, and I was at Bound for Glory, 2,500 fans. They're running they've embraced the modesty of where they are, but also that opens up a lot of possibilities within that, when you can be a hardcore brand like what AEW is doing, but they're doing it at the proper scale. All right, we know where we are. And we know how we can get as much out of the lane that we're in and not overextend ourselves. But that also gives you this sense of, all right, if you're not happy here, you can come over to TNA. If you don't feel you're getting exposure, you can come over and do this. And now you see this Endeavor thing. Now you see Worlds Collide. I'm like, they're teasing a signing that's significant. It's got to be big, right? You got to, and who's out there that they could get while everyone's trying to sign someone up at the early part of 2024? What, Mercedes Moné? Is that the big name you can think of?
Yeah, and I mean, let's say Drew McIntyre doesn't sign with WWE.
Oh boy, I don't know.
That's way too big. Yeah, that's
let's be clear. I think Drew's deal has him locked into WWE until mid-April. But but this is a different WWE, and this is a WWE. I saw a great note here today that this is a WWE that's ran now by Hollywood agents. Yeah, and Hollywood agents really like getting someone else's client. They really enjoy that idea. And I've worked in radio and media, and they really love the idea of you work over there, but then you come over to us. They really enjoy that. And is WWE now going to be in a position to have some of their talent go over and do something on TNA? Because they already did the thing where they would have some people go and do NXT. All right, you're a Raw or SmackDown guy, you can go do NXT. Yeah. Does TNA become like another developmental spot for them?
I mean, that Endeavor,
hypothetically,
Yeah. I mean, I'm
not saying they buy it. They buy it. Maybe they just have a working deal with them. You know what I mean? Hey.
That would be smart. That would be smart in my eyes, and to have just another branch out there that you could send some guys over to that aren't getting as much airtime here with WWE, but you want to get them some work and still have them out there. That would be a perfect place for it to go.
At the same time, they're teasing this like it's the biggest name they could get, and worlds are going to collide. So I'm just like, oh boy. Or is TNA doing the AEW thing again? I think that's a possibility too. I do think AEW is in a sense of like, let's get some more, let's fire up the engines again. Let's rev some stuff up here when you think we're kind of cooling down, and that they're apart, because they have World's End. That's a big show. How that show is going to be affected is weird, because you have MJF who's working hurt. And I think there's a possibility he could lose his title, which is very unfortunate. Lewis Davidson bring up the whole AEW WWE thing now, the TV contracts, the concern about that. Yes, Tony Khan is a great businessman. He knows what he's doing, but seriously, in my opinion, AEW can't go toe-to-toe with WWE. Not right now. Fair take.
Fair.
I'm not making this a WWE WCW thing, but anything can happen. Well, the thing is, like, do you think they try to go toe to toe like too quickly? I mean, you're naturally going to fight for talent, you know? And at some point, TNA just said, like, hey, we're just going to be the other company. We're not going to fight head to head with you talent wise. AEW, because they have money, it's Tony's money, right? And he can come to the table with real money and offer competitive exposure and all these different things, but it's certainly not what WWE can offer right now. And WWE is going to spend some money. Maybe some people just want to make money and still be comfortable. Well, go to AEW.
True.
Maybe you just want to be comfortable, still make some money. you go to TNA.
Yeah. I have to agree with Lewis here. You know, I love what AEW puts out, but at the moment, I just don't think that they can compete with WWE, and they shouldn't try. They should just do their thing. I love what they're putting out, and I love the separation between the two. I said it before. You don't need to try to be WWE. It does help, you know, to have that competition, especially if your direct competition is the big dog WWE. But
the big dog,
yeah. But I
love saying the big dog, the big dog coming at you, the big dog. So this is just a wild time in the business to follow everything. So definitely, you know, could just go to sportskeeda.com. You'll have all this different stuff here. Now here comes the pylon though. Abreu, Curve and Abreu saying AEW product ice cold. Nothing interesting happens. I would say no, that isn't the case. The ROH Final Battle pay-per-view was really cool. You know, essentially did like a Jay Briscoe tribute match in the 6-man.
Yeah,
awesome. Bryan Danielson is doing some interesting stuff. I think they finally started to say, like, all right, we can't just have the women have matches for the title and then someone loses the title and we have all these titles, and they introduced another women's title this weekend. We don't know how that's going to go. But you know, you have Billy Starks getting a character development. You have Athena, who left WWE and came over to AEW. I think she's benefited from that. Tony Storm gets to do this timeless old Hollywood character, and that's interesting. Sky Blue is now an evil person, and I think that's interesting. I think the women are the most interesting they've been in quite some time, because I really felt like they pulled back on them, and now they're starting to understand, like, all right, we got to get this together. And I think the Sting retirement tour stuff is going to that really feels like it's going to pick up in January. And good news on that. They basically are going to sell out that building in Greensboro for his final match at Revolution, which is really, really cool and kind of in that nostalgic Mid-Atlantic NWA territory. So that's kind of what they're going for. It's not all bad. No. You know, I don't want to do the pylon thing and say it's all bad, but it's definitely like WWE's cooking right now, man. You know, and people are just naturally going to be like, oh, what are they making over in that kitchen? You know, like it's natural. It's natural. But when you see this TV news story with the TV deals and stuff like that, it's like, oh boy. Oh man. Oh, that ain't good. And then, but also, have you seen this too, where people completely show ass, and it's like, you could have done this, and they get mad at AEW, and it's like, you wanted one side to look cooler than the other, you know, like you see their bias kind of show. They show ass.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, have you seen that a little bit more in the past week when this story broke? I saw a whole bunch of that.
Definitely. I mean, go over to X, Twitter, and I'm sure you could see something about it right now. I mean, you're not gonna have to search too far. It's all comedy to me. I mean, it's just entertainment. What's
the worst wrestling take you've seen recently? You don't have to name names, because you see these people try to use like hot takes, and it's just like, what are you doing, dude? Like you are lost in the weeds, brother. What are you doing here?
Off the top of my head, I've seen just so many lately that I can't put one out there off the top of my head. But I mean, it's insane. It's insane what people come up with and decide to put out there to the world as well. So, I don't know. It's all entertainment. It's all entertainment, baby. Coming up this week on the Sportskeeda Wrestling YouTube channel, I worked on this. And it is something I put a lot of time and effort into. We have a lot of producers working on it. You know about this movie that is coming out, The Iron Claw. I want to wrap up on this. We will have a retrospective coming out. This has been done, but I do think it's an important story to
keep in your mind when you go to see this movie. The Iron Claw will not be 100% based on reality, but certainly inspired by it. With the Von Erich family, the famed Von Erich wrestling family of world-class championship wrestling, a majority of the brothers, the Von Erich brothers, sadly passed away under several different tragic circumstances. And that is kind of displayed in this movie, this A24 movie, starring Zac Efron, Jeremy Allen White. I saw it. A certain member of the WWE roster that we talked about today was in the audience and certainly seemed to enjoy it to some degree in my brief conversation with that person. And this movie is making a big deal. Had a world premiere. John Cena was there. MJF was there. MJF has a blink and you miss it scene in this movie, which is unfortunate. I think his scene got cut down. The wrestling in it looks great. Chavo Guerrero's in it. Is it great? I may do a formal interview with this, but this retrospective I have on that is likely coming out on the channel on Friday, the same day the movie comes out. If you're a younger fan, you've heard of this, seek out looking at these guys. These they were like essentially like I want to say like a wrestling boy band at one point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like and they were over in terms of things that were like very, very successful in the 1980s wrestling boom period that wasn't WWE. World class, like was and for at least a few years very successful. Like international television, they were on ESPN. They had a national cable deal. Like like they had some real success. And then things sadly went another way, both in and out of the ring. But I'm very, very excited for you guys to see that. If and when you see that, watch it. We have plenty of you guys watching this video that I think we talk about the negative AEW stuff, right? There's plenty of you watching the story. We get into these mistakes that AEW is making, and we get into them, and I've broken them down, and that is every Tony Khan mistake that led to the decline of AEW, the drop off that they've had here. That is up. 51,000 of you agree with some of this because you're watching it. That has come out. We also dig into Logan Paul and how he quickly became a big star and a big attraction, how he's exceeded expectations. Those videos are up right now on our channel. Nick, if they want to follow you, where do they go?
At nharksen24 on the Twitter. That's at NHARKSEN24.
And you're on a bunch of the shorts that we have on our YouTube
channel.
So
on YouTube, when you watch the shorts, a lot of the times when you hear a crazy voice, it's going to be
What do you mean you don't talk like this all the time, Nicholas? What are you talking about?
When I do my
this isn't your this isn't your regular voice.
It is not. So this is what you're hearing right now, not what you hear on the scripts.
that was still a little broadcastery. That was still
well, now I'm stuck in my ways. I have shorts to do right after this, so already
get ready. Get ready. Get ready. It's Nick Harksen reporting.
Yes, sir.
do you get asked to do the story? Do they send you? It's like, hey, put some sauce on it, man. But really, give us the pipes of this.
I mean, it used to be that way. Sometimes they would have to, hype me up sometimes. But now I got it. Now I know what the formula is. So
another comment here. Here we go. AEW, MJF, everything going on. I'm worried about him, man. He's injured. He's working. He's working hurt. I don't think we're going to see him wrestle until World's End, this pay-per-view at the end of the month, but hopefully he's all right. MJF is awesome. If Tony lets him slip away, it'll be a big loss for the company. MJF is skilled, good in-ring performer, but if he goes to WWE, it could be over for him. Look at Keith Lee. Oh, you mean like he would get lost in the shuffle in WWE? No. I think he's a guy who would go, and they would put him on NXT, which feels weird. This is me. They would put him on NXT, but it would quickly become, let's have you here. Let's let something drop out and Raw or SmackDown, you pop in there. I wouldn't say that's the case. I wouldn't say that's the case. The way that WWE's treated people that have come over from AEW that were either in WWE before or are coming over now, it's a different story. Jade Cargill's being treated like a big deal, even though she hasn't debuted. They're treating her like a big deal. Cody was treated like a massive deal. The guy got the WrestleMania debut, a reintroduction, and is obviously one of the top guys in the company. So I'm not saying that MJF can't be that, but he's a guy who comes in. I think there's people behind him in WWE that would suffer if he came to the company. That's the way I think about it. He's that talented.
Oh yeah.
And you've had people in WWE say like, "Oh yeah, eventually he'll be here at some point." Now, when that is, yeah, Cody's saying that in an interview. He's like, "Oh yeah, eventually he'll be in WWE." I was like, "Oh boy." Imagine if you're one of the executives that work with Cody and you hear that, you're like, "What have you done now? Stop it." All right, you can follow me on the things at Kev Kellum, at Kev Kellum. That's KEVKELLAM. Kev Kellum 6 on Instagram. I'm trying to get the Instagram number up. I need the validation. And I'm very, very busy on air on the Rock Radio with Q101. Go check out stuff we're doing with them. A whole bunch of cool stuff I filmed with them. I don't think I can say this. Oh, I want to say it. I'm doing something pretty cool that's going to come out the week of Christmas with Q101, and I'll share it with you guys. Just go follow me on my socials. It is pretty sweet. I'm excited, and I'm looking to see if nope, I cannot say it. So, but I will tell you, Nick.
Yeah, can't wait. Let's go.
I always get so much shit from people when I do that. Ken terminated DQ. What's up? NoDQ.com, dude. That's old school wrestling internet right there. You guys, Ken. Hey, wrestling fans. Hey, wrestling fans. Hey, if you're here for the first time, don't make it the last time. If you're just joining us late, don't even worry about it. Just go back, watch the whole show.
Yeah.
Get in the comments if you watch it on demand too. I want to hear from you guys. By the way, you guys can also get the podcast version of the show. The podcast audio is up as well. That is available on Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the different apps, all the different shows we have with Vince Russo. Bro. Bill Apter. Enjoy the matches. And all those different guys. Shout out to Dutch Mantel on the mend as well. Dutch, we're rooting for you. We know you're going to be back with us soon. Remember, when watching wrestling, please do the most important thing. Do you know? Can you give me in your special broadcaster voice the sign-off phrase that I always do? Nick, can you do that? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, broadcast away.
Enjoy wrestling.
Hear the pipes on that one.